You're listening to the Red Eye Hour.
Welcome back, everybody. This is your host, JMeeks, and this is the Red Eye Hour. Thanks for staying up with me and checking out another Solo Stories Part 5. And this one is titled Pet Cemetery. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. So, this is going to be an interesting story. Even if you're a local or a townie, you might not have heard of this place. Not too many people have. I know about it because of my dad, and it was an actual pet cemetery, obviously, where people had their pets buried, and 2 of our cats are buried out there. So I'll get into the story. So to get to Pet Cemetery, you have to go down Anderson Avenue, and this is all the way on the west side of Manhattan, going out of town, going towards Keats, but you don't go that far. So you take a right on a gravel road called West 69th Avenue. So it's a windy gravel road with hills and dips and curves, and there's a couple houses scattered out there, and a few farms, and there's also like some equestrian riding place that's out there, and that's more recent. Wasn't out there when I was a teenager. So after several miles, the road curves to the right, and once you make that right-hand turn, West 69th Avenue becomes White's Road. After turning on White's Road, you go about 40 yards, maybe. I'm really guessing on that part, and would be on the left-hand side of the road. So I first heard about this place, like I said, from my dad. He had a cat named Boots. Boots lived to be like 19 years old, and when he passed, my dad's vet told him about this place, and her name was like Dr. Nelson, and she might not even be alive anymore. I know she's retired for sure. And she mentioned to my dad, hey, if you're interested, there's this old farmer I know, and he made this pet cemetery for people so they could bury their pets because, pets are like family. And my dad said, okay, and he took the information and was interested in it and said he would look into it. So he called the old farmer and told him that his cat passed away and he was interested in burying him there. And the farmer was like, okay, great, I'll meet up with you. I think he drew my dad a map, and my dad decided where he wanted Boots buried. So when you're at the cemetery, there's this little wooden gate, and that's what you have to open to get in, and it's short, so you have to duck down to go into the little gate there. And I'm like 5'8", 5'9", and I had to duck to go into this gate. So it takes a little jog to the left, like through these overhanging trees, and then it comes out to this really nice, kept up, clean, mowed area with flat headstones, and then there's rows and rows of flat headstones of people's pets that they had buried out there. So you can go row by row, and it goes towards the back of the cemetery. And then towards the back of the cemetery, if you go to the left, and there's like some trees that kind of border the kept up clean area. And as you take that right, at the back of the cemetery, it's the wild area, or the wild section of the cemetery, and it's purposely made like that. So the grass is kept a little taller. They let the bushes and stuff overgrow, and that's for people that don't want to bury their pets like in the clean cut area. They want to, kind of take it back to its roots and have the animal buried in the wild area, right? So that's where my dad decided to have Boots buried. So he didn't buy an actual gravestone. He just had like a metal marker that had his name and the year he was born and when he passed away. And the area around there, it's very remote. You're out in the country, and when you're standing at the back of that cemetery and you look out, you see like this rolling farmland, and you can see like this big farm or ranch with like a silo and like a place big area where they keep cattle, and you can see the farmhouse in the distance. And it's actually quite beautiful out there and peaceful during the day when you're there. So a few years later, I was like preteen, and our other cat that we had at the same time we had Boots, his name was Simon, and he ended up having like a few heart attacks, and we had to take him to the vet med, and then anyway, he ended up passing away. And my dad also decided to have Simon buried at the pet cemetery in the wild area next to Boots. So the next part of this story is the personal experience I had out there that was quite frightening, let me tell you. So I'm in high school. This is about the mid-90s again. And me and 3 of my friends, so 4 of us, had talked during the week, and we're like, hey, on Friday or Saturday night, we should go check out Pet Cemetery. And I said, yeah, let's do that, man. Let's see if we can, do some like ghost hunting, And I said, I have this voice recorder that my mom got me, and we can use it. Maybe we can hear some voices or pick up some EVPs. Now, this is way back in the days, and I know EVP, existed back then, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. But the voice recorder, they were like this long rectangle shaped, and they took like little cassette tapes you put in it, and you could hit like the red button on top and use it as a voice recorder. So I had that with me, and I think one of us had a flashlight. I don't think we really thought it through very well, because it's out in the country. It's not like there's street lights or anything. Like, it's dark. So we take the road trip all the way out to Pet Cemetery, and when we get to White's Road and we can see the fence, my friend at the time, Ryan, took his car and turned it around and faced it, which was now be on the right side of the road next to the gate, but facing the direction we were coming. So when we get in the car, we can just head back in the direction where we were going. So we go inside the gate and take the little jog to the left, through that over, the trees that overhung into the clean-cut area. And we're looking at the graves and looking at the names and kind of going through the rows, and we're getting back closer to the back of the cemetery. And we're all kind of close together. We're not really spread out. We're kind of staying in a group. And all of a sudden, as we're getting toward the back of the cemetery, and it's very dark because we're getting back to the area where you would take the right to go into the wild area, so the trees and stuff there kind of made it seem even darker. And all of a sudden, at this moment, we hear these footsteps running toward us at like a pretty fast speed. And at that same exact moment, we all froze. And then at that same exact time, this all happens at the same time, we hear this voice. And it's like a human voice, but it's almost like something you would hear out of like a zombie movie, or maybe like this wild axe murder sounding, like yelling that was coming from whatever this was. And I will imitate the sound. So I don't know what justice I'll do, but I'll kind of imitate the sound so you get an idea of what it sounded like. So the footsteps are coming toward us. We're frozen in one spot, and we hear this, and we just turn around, and we are screaming at the top of our lungs, and we are running as fast as we can. Now remember, I'm supposed to be recording the whole time, which I did hit record when we got into the cemetery. But now, as I'm running for my life, and these footsteps are behind us, and this weird yelling is going on, I'm pushing all the buttons because it's in my left hand, and I'm running, and I'm sure I pushed all the buttons and totally screwed it up, and I totally ended up not getting anything recorded because I'm sure I erased it as I was running and gripping the recorder. So we get through the gate, we're running, we get to the gate, we get through the gate. My friend jumps in the back seat. I literally dive into the back seat. My friend gets in the driver's seat, and we peel off in the gravel and just take off and get the hell out of there because we are scared. So we're in the car and we're all freaking out. We're all talking at the same time and our voices are elevated and we're like, what the was that? And did you hear the sound? And it sounded like it was chasing us. And what was that sound it was making? And we're just asking all these rhetorical questions and describing it and just freaking out over this incident. So as we drive the miles back toward the western edge of Anderson Avenue, we've kind of calmed down a little bit, but still pretty excited about what happened. We get to the stop sign. We're going to be taking a left onto Anderson Avenue to start our journey back to Manhattan. And as we make that left-hand turn and the car begins to straighten out on Anderson Avenue and we start to go, we're going less than 30 miles an hour. On the right side of the road, we all notice that there's this man walking his dog. Now, that's not that strange. People walk their dogs at all times of the day and night, and this is out in the country, and maybe this guy was just taking his dog for a stroll. I don't know. So we see him, and there's nothing unusual about him. Nothing jumps out at us. He's definitely not wearing reflective clothing for walking on a highway basically late at night and walking this dog. And I remember he had like a winter cap that you put on, not a beanie, but like a winter cap that it's tight on your head and comes in right below your ears, normal hat you'd wear during colder weather. And this was probably October, November, so it was definitely chilly and needed that kind of, you'd be wearing that kind of clothing. So as we notice this guy and we're getting up to him, all of a sudden at this moment, we're all turning our heads to the right to look at this man walking the dog. And at that same moment, as he's walking the dog, he turns his head to the left very slowly all the way until he's looking at us in the car and we're looking at him. And we all realize at the same time that this man had no face. He had no face. And we start yelling again, going, what the hell? He didn't have a face. Did you see that? And we're just freaking out again. My buddy hits the gas and we hightail it back to town. Now, they report when they saw the man and we all looked at each other at the same time, they remember his face being like blacked out. Like if you would take like a black mask and put it on you, you couldn't see anything. You could see like the protrusion of your nose or the bumps where your ears would be or maybe where your lips, but no facial recognition, just blacked out. But that's not what I remember. My memory is when we all looked and we saw this guy. His face wasn't blacked out to me. It was like he was wearing instead of a black out mask, it was like a flesh colored mask. And that was it. So there was no facial hair, there was no eyeballs, no lips, no ears, just skin over his face. So you could barely see the indentions of where like his eyes would go. And maybe a faint small protrusion of where the nose would normally be. Just totally crazy. And this stuck with me forever, this whole incident. Going to the pet cemetery and what happened there. And then the guy walking the dog with no face. I'll never forget it. And when I think about this story, I don't know what's scarier. The fact that when we were in the cemetery and those footsteps are running towards us and this weird yelling is going on from this thing, we never saw it. And that is terrifying as well because we don't know what it was at all. Was it a human? Was it some kind of demonic presence? Was it a spirit? What was it? And we'll never know. We'll never know. Because none of us saw it. We just heard it with our ears. And the sensation that we had to get the hell out of there. And then the guy with the no face, I don't know. Did like something follow us from the cemetery, and that was like the last part to make sure, like, you know, we stayed away? Or did we have a mass hallucination? I don't know. But it was crazy. And I have to admit that that was one of the times that I was the most scared when it came to something that could be possibly paranormal activity. So that is the end of this little short story about Pet Cemetery that's just outside of Manhattan. Today, present day, it is not operational anymore. It is all overgrown. It's not kept up. And if you were driving on this road, this West 69th Avenue, and take the right that turns to White's Road, if you didn't know this place existed, you wouldn't even see it. You wouldn't see the gate anymore. You can barely probably see the old barbed wire fence. You would just keep driving and minding your own business because it's all overgrown, and you would just thought it was a patch of a wooded area like you see sometimes out in the country. So really strange. Don't know why it's not operational anymore. I can't find any information on it. And I even questioned my dad, and he didn't have any information. So I don't know if the farmer that owned it passed away, and then it just, you know, no one took care of it anymore, and it overgrown, and it is what it is now. I don't know. And I'll probably never find out the story. But I hope you guys enjoyed the story. It was pretty crazy. Please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the Red Eye Hour, please do that. I need subscribers. And feel free to leave comments. If you know about this place, if you've had an experience, let us know. Engage with us. We'd like to hear it. But again, this is your host, JMeeks. And we just got done with Solo Stories, Part 5, Pet Cemetery. Just hold on, and Part 6 will be coming soon. And I want to thank you guys again for flying with the Red Eye Hour. And we'll see you later. Goodbye.
Thanks for flying with the Red Eye Hour.